Police was watching the house because they were getting ready to bust the dealer. They saw her coming out of the place, so they followed her because they knew she got drugs. Mm-hmm. So when the police, what they used to do, so they could hide it from the police, they would swallow the bags. But when the police came in, they searched her, they searched the house, they couldn't find the drug. So the people that gave her the money, that put in the money to get the drugs with her, they asked her where were the drugs. She said, I swallowed them. It was in a plastic bag. So then they stuck their finger down her throat to try to get her to throw up, but she hadn't eaten nothing all day, so they wouldn't come up. They gave her X-Lax, and they tried to get her to pass it that way, wouldn't come up. This is a true story now. So she wanted to get a hit. She went in the kitchen herself, and she got a knife, and she let them open her stomach up to get the drugs out of her stomach. And they sat there and done the drugs that night. Later on that night, when she came down off of the drug, she died. They put her underneath the bed. She was only 16. Put her underneath the bed so that people don't know that she was under there. They left her there for about a day. She started smelling up the place. So they wrapped her in blankets and threw her into the canal.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
And I'm John Cena Sr.
Johnny, the fans just haven't asked for it, they have demanded it.
This August, we're headed back to Tampa for Wrestle House 2.
WrestleMania weekend, we brought you Sinister Minister James Mitchell, TJP, Demolition Smash, Al Snow, Dutch Mantel Zeb Coulter, JTG of Crime Time, and WWE Hall of Famer Gerald Briscoe for in-depth interviews and live interactive cyber autograph signings.
And if you want our Wednesday Night Wrestling Insider Special Edition episodes to continue, we need your help to bring these superstars' careers and lives to life.
Bringing you free content 7 days each week is an expensive proposition between appearance fees, air travel, renting the house, the equipment, and everything that goes in to a week of shooting. We can't do it without you.
As we prepare to return to producing live in-ring events, help us bring you the superstars and legends of yesterday and tomorrow by visiting Indiegogo now and check out some of the great rewards.
Wrestling fans, it's going to be a wild week in Tampa the first week in August. Get ready for Wrestle House 2.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
Fans, it is Survivor Series weekend. You get not one, but two great episodes of Memories and Legends. I'm Dan Marty with an all-star panel of guests this time around. El Presidente himself, the man in the middle, the esteemed Dr. David Reese. Pleasure to have you back here. The first time since SummerSlam weekend.
Yep.
And of the far right, my partner in crime for this season of Memories and Legends. You know him as a two-time Hall of Famer. I know him as, I'm still trying to find the words, Mr. USA Tony Atlas.
Yes, how
Tony,
y'all
a pleasure
doing?
to have you back.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
It's a big weekend, a lot of tradition for WWE with Survivor Series out in Los Angeles. The NXT guys are lighting it up. But here in Memories and Legends, Dr. Reese, we had what you might call an explosive episode that you weren't here for, where we discussed Tony leaving WWF in 1986, a rough patch where he was used as an undercard, almost an enhancement guy for the top heels in the company. He went through Texas with World Class with the Von Erichs. There was a lot of turbulation, so to speak, in that company as they were starting to dwindle down and go out of business eventually. Puerto Rico, the murder of Bruiser Brody, trying to get a chance with the Savoldi company in the Northeast, but Vince McMahon squashed them before they could make a foothold. Ultimately, that was the demise of Tony Atlas. There was no more spotlight. And also in this episode, as we get to the point where Tony became homeless, we learned of abuse from his childhood. He didn't even include this in his book, apparently, because the publisher didn't want it. Apparently, when he was a young kid, he went with a group like Big Brothers, where a man went under the water after encouraging the kids to get naked and gave him fellatio in the pond. And he also had another issue later on that his brother saved him from, where he bashed a man with a tree branch. So that takes us to the present day, Dr. Reese. We're going to take a look at this superstar that was known around the world. Every newsstand you went to, back in the day when there were 15 wrestling magazines, you saw Tony Atlas's picture. A generation of fans that believed in this industry different than they do today. Everybody knew who Tony Atlas was. And then all of a sudden, on an August night, and a loss to Adrian Adonis at Madison Square Garden, he stormed out of the ring, and that was the end of that big WWF run for Mr. USA.
That's right. I always describe, no matter where you are in the wrestling world, in my day, and especially not so much now, but back in the day, people got to realize we wrestled 7 days a week. And it was the promoter job to make sure that we did not get involved in anything else. Ole Anderson came to me one time, and he said he almost not got into business because they figured he was too old. And I said, well, how old were you old when you broke into business? He said, I was 24. So wrestling have been just like the military. You get them while they're young, before they get involved and know that they can make money doing something else. When I went for the Mr. USA title for the first time, Johnny Weaver and Tim Woods, who was Mr. Wrestling #1, Tim Woods, and he told me, he said, don't answer your phone. He said, the office gave you a day off. I said, go, yes. I said, they told me I could go to contact. They said, Tony, trust me, don't answer your phone. They're going to call you and tell you that somebody ain't going to make it, and they're going to need you to make the show. He said they've done it to Superstar Billy Graham. They did it to a lot of guys. They were so afraid that once they want us to believe that the only way we can make it is with wrestling, no other way. This is all we had. So they want us to put our 110% into wrestling. The problem was, in the older days, a wrestler would go from being a wrestler to a manager to a referee, and if he still was physically in good shape, he could put on a mask and go wrestle in Canada or Japan. I wrestled a guy that was in his 50s and 60s. Kuta Kowalski wrestled all up till he was in his 70s. But then what ended up happening when Vince Jr. took over, there was no territories to go to. There was no other position to fulfill. So imagine a guy being locked away in penitentiary for, let's say, 20 years and had no contact whatsoever with the outside world, and then you turn him loose. That's a wrestler. That's why if you ever notice, all the suicide, all the drug overdose did not happen during their time as a wrestler.
Very few.
It happened, very few. It happened after their career. Because here you take this person that become a professional wrestler when he's 20 years old. Now he's in his 40s. And if he didn't save his money, and he ain't got no money saved up or nothing, what is he going to do now? You have to, when I first, my first job in Maine, I worked for a place called Precision Building. It was a construction company. And I had to dig a ditch to put a drain around the house so the water wouldn't drain into the basement. And a little kid came up with my picture and told his mom, that's Tony Atlas. And she said, why would Tony Atlas be digging a ditch around my house? See, it's hard for these guys to go get regular jobs. People know who they are. Can you imagine John Cena bagging your groceries? Can you imagine Undertaker driving a cab? Well, these were the talent, this was the ability these guys was left with. They're even going to be cab drivers, or they're going to be bagging clothes or somewhere. They couldn't even walk in and get a high position. They have no
skills outside the industry.
No skill outside the ring. Now, inside that ring, that wrestler could make you thousands of dollars inside the ring. Outside the ring, we were pretty much useless in the real world. And luckily for me, I met my wife, and with the help of the Lewiston and Auburn Police Department, I was able to get myself back into society. And I even was on a suicide watch for many, many years. I tried to commit suicide. I cut this away. See that scar, Doc?
Oh, yeah.
That was my attempt of doing it. Then I tried assassination by police. I tried to get the police to shoot me, and they wouldn't do it.
Well, let's get to that point in a little bit. I want to try and frame by frame almost, try and see how we get to this point. Dr. Reese, you work with a lot of professional athletes. What is it like for someone in Tony's predicament? Let's go back to August of 1986. He may not be a top guy in WWF anymore, but he's working with the biggest wrestling organization in the world, traveling the globe, recognized everywhere, loved by all the fans.
Making money.
Snap of the fingers.
Yeah.
After the match with Adrian Adonis, he gets pissed, he storms to the back, and we don't see Tony Atlas again in WWF for several years. What is it like for an athlete in that position to be one of the elite? And then all of a sudden, I've used the analogy before, you be in a position where you have your action figure in Walmart, then all of a sudden maybe you're in a position where you need to have a job at Walmart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be devastating, and not only at the pro level, even at the college level, where it may not be that famous, nationally, but locally, but the men, women, and women's sports, suddenly they lose their identity. They lose who they are, and often they're left without a plan of what to do, and there are all the pressures. But there's another aspect that I think people don't give enough credit to, and Tony, you tell me if I'm wrong.
Dr. Reese.
No. I mean, obviously there's all the social pressures and the laws, but there's another pressure that's actually physical. And again, you correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not the one who has that experience. When you're on the road as often as you were, when you're in the ring as often as you're used to living on adrenaline.
That's right.
You're used to living on an edge.
That's right.
What's it like the first few months when you wake up and there's no edge? And there's no energy, there's no spark, there's nothing to look forward to that I'm going to be on that edge. There's actually a physiological depression that sets in, on top of all the social pressure.
That makes sense.
Identity. The body, the mind actually starts looking for, how do I get that excitement back? And sometimes people find it in bad ways, or sometimes they really fall into a depression because that edge is gone. I also see it even among first responders, law enforcement who are retired, who are used to living on that edge. You take that away, and life just seems very bland.
I like to get post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, you combine it with the PTSD and the loss of the energy and the loss of the distraction, and it's totally discombobulating.
You're exactly right, Doc. I told my wife just yesterday, when I'm at home, I get tired. I'm always tired at home. As soon as I get a booking or I got to go somewhere, I feel energized, like I got new life. I'd rather drive 8 hours to New Jersey than to sit in a house. And another thing too is
the question I'd ask, if you came into my office and told me that, I'd say, are you sure you're tired, or is it a form of mild depression?
Mild depression, see? We all go through it.
And yes, you experience it as fatigue.
Because you got to realize, you walk out there and in Madison Square Garden, there's over 20,000 people praising you. You feel like God on there. You're walking on water. I felt like sometime in the ring that I was floating. I felt like I was
floating. An altered state, isn't it?
It gives you such a rush. And then all of a sudden, that is gone. But the hardest part is, the more recognizable you are in public, the harder it is to adjust in public. Because people already have put you on I'll be grocery shop with my wife right now today, and some father said, that's Tony Atlas. And I saw the kid face like, really? And I hear this all the time. Why is he here? They like shocked to see me just grocery shop. And then a lot of times they would come up, the kids would come up to me, this recently, where's your limousine? You know what they tell my wife? That I'm a Cedric. They think I'm a rich man, but I'm cheap. People say, oh, if I had your money, Tony, I wouldn't have no problem. They think I'm rich.
They are only believing the televised type for you for so many decades. As opposed to what reality really is, and we know it's a different story.
And it's hard. The thing that saved me, I would say, was the personal training. And then I worked with mentally challenged adults. And nobody believed I get paid for these jobs. They said, oh, you great for the community. You do a lot of volunteer work. Oh, what do you mean volunteer? I get paid. They don't volunteer. I ain't volunteering nothing. I'm here because they're going to pay me. But they think that the work I'm doing, I'm volunteering to do it. And they say, oh, yeah, we just love all the volunteer work you do. but they can't believe that I actually need the money.
Right.
And if I told them that I need money, oh yeah, come on, Tony, stop pulling that leg. We know you got more money. You got what do you do with all that money?
Let me ask you this, Tony. When you left WWF, there was a gap between that run with the McMahons before going to the Von Erichs and World Class. Like Dr. Reese said, did you feel like you lost a part of yourself?
Well, but see,
Were you angry? Were you bitter?
but not
Is this
not
when
right
the drug
not
problem
right
began?
then and there. I really lost myself when Vince bought the territory. There was nowhere to go. That's what did it for us, guys. See, we always knew we could find another place to go.
Did you have a plan when you left WWF in '86? What you were going to do next?
Yeah, I went to World Class. I was at Puerto Rico when Brody got stabbed. Then I came up. How I got to Maine, I came to work for ICW.
Right.
So, and they were still had WCW. They had ECW. Memphis was still going at that time, and they still had Japan. So we still have options. But what Vince did, he took away all the options.
They were dwindling at that point.
Right, it was the tail end of it, but there were still some options out there. But I would have stayed in Puerto Rico if it hadn't been for the stabbing death of Bruiser Brody. And then I had planned to go to Japan and other places during that time too. And also I did some bodyguard work with, I bodyguarded the rank with Liza Minnelli and Cheetah Rivera.
Wow.
Back during the mid-'80s when they did a rank in Manhattan. I was one of the bodyguards, and I bodyguarded the Tony Award.
Wow.
We were
fitting.
Right, and so we was doing other stuff outside of wrestling. I was very much involved in the bodybuilding world and working with Pete Gronkowski out of Los Angeles. We were doing franchise for the gym. I worked with Dan Lurie. I got magazines where I was doing the advertisement. I was doing the advertisement for Dan Lurie because I still had a name.
Yeah.
But what Vince McMahon did, he cut the options. We made it, and that's when you notice guys started, like Doc said, that the pressure set in. So God figured the best way to deal with the pressure is more and more drug use.
Now, what drugs were you using in '86 when you left? Had the bad habit really developed yet, or was it just more recreational?
I was indulging a little bit with cocaine, but mainly it was mostly alcohol and pot.
You were a big drinker, really?
Well, yeah, all of us were. I mean, it was just a wrestling thing to do a 6-pack of beer a night.
Right.
That was no big deal for a
Well,
wrestler.
would you consider it that you were abusing alcohol?
We all did. I mean, because we drank every night.
Well, would you have considered yourself a functioning alcoholic, or just someone that had a few drinks
A
after the
functioning
matches?
alcoholic.
Really? That's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, because we drink every night. Every night we drink.
Is that what you would call? You know this better than me, Dr. Reese. Would that be considered?
I mean,
if you do it every
Oh,
day.
yeah, if you're drinking that much, your body's get addicted to it.
Yeah, your body used to it, so you're alcoholic. Yeah.
Well,
Because we did it every night. We went to the bars, we drank 5 or 6 beers, but we ate with it. And maybe that's what helped us a lot. You know, we order a burger, it was burger and beer, or burger and wings, or burger and pizza after every match. I mean, we used to go to this, we used to be to Bradford, right by Chinatown. And they used to keep the restaurant open for us late at night. So, you know, guys would go in there and order their burgers and wings or spaghetti or whatever. Or either to go down to Chinatown to eat Chinese food and beer. You know, Andre the Giant, we sat at the table, and we used to go sit at the table with Andre. Andre, drink. Every time Andre buy a beer, you had to drink a beer. Drink.
He had a large tank for that
Yeah,
beer.
you had to drink. So yeah, the doc is exactly right. The guys go through a deep. See, people are not nice to each other, and wrestlers are used to being praised. People, they can forget that. When somebody sees John Cena or see an Undertaker, I mean, they treat him like, you know, something very, very special. You know, oh, I watch your matches, you know, nothing but praise. He walk into a restaurant, you know, we found the best table for you. You go into the hotel, get the best hotel. Everything we get, everybody cater to you. You get catered to,
Right.
catered to. Then you come out here in the real world. And then you see how people really, in reality, we are really not nice to each other. You ride down the highway in your old beat up car. Hey, take that old rust bucket off the road. You come down in your Rolls Royce. Oh, excuse me, sir. See, when people have got that status, got that high status, you get that special treatment. people we got used to, in regular life, we got used to abuse. Like a buddy come up and punch you on the arm. That's abuse. But we got used to him
We saw that
doing
here
it.
in the studio with Caesar
Right.
the Lion not too
Yeah,
long
when you
ago.
drive, people cut you off. People get in front of you in the line. People don't respect you. You know, you get disrespected all the time. That it came where we are immune to abuse. And wrestlers are immune, get no abuse, none. So when they come in the regular world, they experience abuse for the first time in a long time.
Tony, do you think it's fair to say a lot of the wrestlers mentally, as they go through their careers, and as they
Are
get
insane.
as they get as they get closer to the end, and they have to realize what the real world is, they've almost lived a period of their lives where they're working themselves.
They feel like their life is over
Yeah.
because they don't know, they can't fit in, and they can't live that same standards. See, like you take like a Hulk Hogan, for example. In the wrestling world, he's bigger than life. But out here in the real world, he's a janitor. He got a boss, he's an underling. On everywhere he go, he's an underling. He can't come to a studio and work, he don't have the qualification. He don't have the paperwork to put him in a studio, you know. He can't be a principal, and if he don't have a degree in teaching, he can't go and become a teacher. If he don't have a degree in something out here. And then the way society works, you may learn something in 1980 if that's when you got your degree, but then you got to be upgraded. And every year a company upgrade. And what you learn, like my job, what I learned when I first started working is obsolete now. I have to get upgraded every 3 years to be a trainer, because what I learned 3 years ago is now
Different. Yep.
is now different. So you have to learn about the changing of time, and you have to get used to being putting in a lot of hours for less money.
Right. That's the thing.
And going back to what actually both of you mentioned a bit before, and again, you know more than I do, but a lot of the people who go into sports are looking to get away from bad backgrounds
That's right.
or abuse or
That's right.
trauma.
That's right.
And the spotlight, the fame
That's
is
right.
an escape.
That's right.
And then just as you say, that goes away and suddenly you're being abused. What does it do? It takes you right back to when you were 7, 8, 9, 12, and you were being abused, and all that crap comes back
That
up.
comes back.
And
But
it
you
hits the
feel like
fan.
it's worse because you had a taste of the good life.
Right.
At
Right.
first, you wasn't used to it. It didn't bother you at first.
You didn't realize.
Because you didn't realize there was anything other than what it were. But then when you come back to it, then you started, it's harder to handle as an adult than it is as before you start your career. And that's why you just recently, Jerry the King Lawler's son, you know, with Kurt Von Erck, perfect example. He only going to be going to jail for a couple of hours. He couldn't do that. You know, the idea of him being locked up and being a Von Erck,
Overwhelmed them.
it overran him. He could not handle the fact that there's a lot of wrestlers like that. You know, most of the guys, you know, they end up committing either suicide or they end up being you know, heavily involved in drugs, and
Well,
eventually take their own life.
Dr. Reese, let me ask you this. If Tony came to you in 1986 and described to you what was going on, what words of wisdom maybe would you have shared with him to try and maybe send him in a more positive direction than he was heading?
Of course, everybody's an individual, but in
Right.
general, it would be two things. One would be to find something you can do now that's meaningful,
That you could do.
and that also has some excitement to it, because
Yeah.
you need that excitement.
Yeah.
And the other would be, on a quieter level, to go back and rework some of the past abuse that was haunting you and that was shoved underneath when you had all the other trappings. And to try to just come to terms with that in a different way.
All right, I hear that music playing right now in the back room. Right now, why don't we take a brief time out? When we come back, we're going to talk more about Tony Atlas's post-WWF run, where it took him, and how he rebuilt himself. It's a very fascinating story. Folks, stand by. Wrestling fans, welcome back to Memories and Legends. Survivor Series weekend, I tell you, this is a happening in the world of professional wrestling, and more fans are enjoying this man's story here on this very program. But Dr. Reese, the demise of Tony, it's a very sad story. We go to 1988, 2 years now removed from his WWF run. He's a top talent in Puerto Rico, making fairly good money from what I understand. And he witnesses the murder of Bruiser Brody in the locker room, a witness to it. We did a whole episode on Bruiser that you can check out in the archives of the show. We're not going to go there, but how do you think that affected a man that was already in a downward spiral, watching his friend be brutally murdered?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's devastating, and it just brings reality, mortality, and evil right into your face, and you have to deal with that. And the fantasy's gone, and suddenly you're dealing with a life that isn't what you wanted it to be. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, that was not the first murder I witnessed. No. See, in my neighborhood, when I was a kid, when you raise up black, that's every day. I mean,
They were
somebody
everyday
gets shot.
murders
I
where you
saw
lived.
bodies just about every other
Really?
day. Oh yeah, it was not unusual for me to see dead bodies. I even saw a lynching.
Really?
Yeah, remember they didn't outlaw lynching in America in 1968. See, a lot of this stuff went on in the 60s. You know, the people would just come down the street, they get some guy, the next morning, us kids out playing, guy, and you know, we see the fire that was burning, and then some guys hanging from the tree. We used to run home, and my mother said, "Oh, y'all stay out them woods, y'all stay out them woods." You know, we went up, we called Henry Street in Roanoke, the 8 yard. Like, I saw Buck Nelson get shot in the mouth. Harold Reynolds, I see him get shot 5 times. He got out the hospital before the guy that shot him did, because the adrenaline was gone so much. He just beat the guy, and he went to the hospital. But I see people get shot and stabbed and killed. I saw the first guy that I saw get killed. I was probably about 5 or 6 years old.
Wow.
And they were
Unbelievable.
shooting dice. They were shooting dice, and this guy dropped like a 10 cents or 5 cents on the ground. The other guy put his foot on top. The guy said, "Take your foot off my money." He said, "My foot is not on your money." And he left and said, "I'll be back." He came back and shot the guy for 5 cents. And we asked him later, you know, my dad and them asked him, "Why you shoot the guy?" He said, "Where's the money with the principal?" So it's like that now. You go to certain neighborhoods in America, not in Germany or Russia or anywhere, right here in good old USA, if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, you get shot. I saw on TV the other day in Florida, they got that stand your ground law. One guy came up and pushed the other guy. The guy fell down, reached his pocket, pulled out a gun, shot the guy just like that.
Wow. Well, Tony, do you recall having any sort of bad reaction to what you saw? You were already in bad shape to begin with, but after the Brody situation, when you had to flee Puerto Rico because you were in danger, what was life like in the aftermath of that?
And did it take you back to those old days?
Yeah, it did, in a way, and the only thing that I could think about, Tony, you need to get out of here. You need to get out of here, because normally if a person would blatantly kill another person in front of hundreds of witnesses and with no fear of repercussion, no fear whatsoever of repercussion. So that kind of tell you where you at in this situation, you know. He could do that to you. There was nothing done to him then. It probably, you know, and if he had killed me, there would have been nothing done about my killing either. So I knew exactly what type of situation I was in, so I got out of there, you know. But from my childhood, we walk to school, we see a body. It was not unusual to see a body. And you go to any black neighborhood right now, it won't be unusual to see a kid run up on the body. Me and Mark Henry in 2010, we was somewhere. It was coming from a restaurant that was across the street. And this little kid recognized Mark Henry. And he go, "Can I get your autograph, Mark Henry?" So Mark Henry, a nice guy. He go to sign the kid autograph. Then we hear bang, 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 bang. Me and Mark, we kind of jump like this. The kid never moved.
Wow.
Jeez.
See, the only thing that excites us is what is new in our lives. We becoming more and more immune to things. It don't have the same benefit. I remember I believe it was the 60s, these guys bombed this church, killed 4 black girls. 4.
Birmingham.
4. The whole country was outraged. The whole country. Sandy Hook, only those that had kids that go there was outraged.
Well, we talked.
We have became desyncretized. It don't affect us the same. Now 4, back in the 60s, 4 touched the whole world. The whole world. They talk about it even now today. The whole world. Sandy Hook was how many?
What was it?
I think 13,
Third.
wasn't it?
What's the third time?
No effect.
Well, it's just the shootings happen so quickly. It's like it's on to the next one.
We become desyncretized to the pain of others. It's not my son, it's not my daughter, it's not my family.
I don't worry about it. All right, Tony. Back.
Even, not to get in politics, even in politics, if this guy is a Republican and he does it, I voted for him, it's okay. This guy's a Democrat, he do the same thing. Like I sit and listen to the news all the time. Fake news. It's only, it's not, it wasn't fake when it was about Hillary. It's never fake when it's about the opponent. It's only fake when it's about the person that called it fake. That's what we get desyncretized.
Right.
Where our team could do it. But I watched the Patriot game last night. I saw pass interference. But because they were the Patriot, now that's my team now, they let it go. If that other team had done that, they would have called it on them.
All right, Tony.
That's it. We pay favoritism to people that, I learned in wrestling, if people like you, you cannot do no wrong. If they like you. If they dislike you, you cannot do no right. And that's where I've learned to deal with things. That the world is the way the world is going to be. We're not going to change it. But I believe that a pond is filled one drop at a time. And I don't
That's a good way to put it.
That one person cannot make a difference. One person can make a difference. You know, and I believe that we need to become more, what's going to bring us together as a nation is when we started loving the country as a whole, not as a group. I like this group, but I don't like this group. I like this person, but I don't like this person. We have to say, he's an American just like me. If he failed, my country failed too. If he succeeds, my country succeeds too.
That's a good way to put it, Tony.
You know.
But after the murder, Puerto Rico, you don't want to go back. Time in world class came to an end. You put all the chips into what the Savoldis were trying to do with the ICW, and that was ultimately a failure because WWF stomped it into the ground before it ever got a foothold. You're in Maine getting ready to work what you thought was a regular territory with ICW, then the show has evaporated. Mm-hmm. Tony Atlas is in Maine, no money, nowhere to live. Take us there.
Well, I ended up homeless. I couldn't find a job because every time I put an application, they say, they fill out this application, I fill out the application, they say previous job, wrestler. That's all I ever did.
Where were you living before the Savoldi situation happened?
I was staying in the olden days, they used to have rooms at the YMCA.
So even when you were doing in world class in Puerto Rico, you were living at a YMCA?
No, when I came to Maine.
What about before you came to
Maine?
Maine?
No, I had an apartment. Before I came to Maine, I had 2 houses.
Did you abandon the apartments?
No, I got divorced.
So where were you living before this ICW situation
Texas.
happened? So what happened to where you were living in Texas?
The wife got the house.
Okay.
I got the shaft.
So you didn't have a home when you were working in Puerto Rico?
I bought 5 homes, paid for 5 homes, and slept on the bench.
I know how that feels.
I paid
That's
for
a different
5
story
homes.
for a different time.
I bought 5 homes.
Every time I drive through Saugus. But Tony, sometimes I get lost in these doctors.
I had a lot of property, but I just couldn't visit it. I had to pay for it though.
So how do you feel, Tony? With nowhere to go, no money, what gets you to the point to say, I'm going to go to the park in Maine and I'm going to sleep under the bench.
Well, I was out looking for a job. And what Vince used to do in the olden days, every time Mario would book a show, like if he booked a show on a Saturday, Vince would book a show on a Friday in the same town.
Yep.
And he kept doing that until he put Mario completely out of business. So it was cancellation. I would work at least 4 days a week with Mario. And Mario had me on a guarantee of $1,500 or $75,000 a year contract.
Pretty good for a guarantee.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't.
Wasn't WWF, but right.
Right. But he said that is good money because everything in Maine, the average apartment in Maine at that time was only like $250 for an apartment. You know, if you got a $500 a month apartment, that was a luxury. 3-bedroom. It was a pretty good size apartment. So I figured that something would give for me because you got to remember during that time, there were still other territories. All the territory was not gone, so restaurants only had a belief that they could go somewhere else. I figured I would get me a deal in Japan or something of that nature. But my biggest mistake that I made was Ole Anderson called me first and wanted me to come down to WCW to work with Ric Flair. Mario Savodi found out about it, so he told Vince about it. Vince called me to the office and gave me the Saba Simba gimmick.
But we'll get there. I want to backtrack to when everything was starting to fall apart for you. How did you wind up living in the park?
Well, I was out looking for a job one day, and I had a room at the YMCA.
And okay,
But because I was out of work for so long,
didn't have any money.
yeah, I didn't have the money to pay. It was only $120 a month.
Wow.
And I didn't have it. A year earlier, I had $1.5 million in the bank.
Wow.
1 year earlier. I went from having $1.5 million in cash. When you add my assets, about $3 million. So I went from having $3 million to not even having $50.
So it's a situation where
See, we didn't invest our money in nothing.
Right.
We just put
Put it in the bank.
That was it.
It was different then.
We didn't know. We didn't know nothing about stocks. We didn't know nothing
401k,
about putting into gold or into silver. We didn't invest it.
So in just a short period of time, it was out at WWF, dwindling territories,
Right.
dried up opportunities.
Right.
Then you have a divorce from your wife, takes over
Right.
your house
Right.
and your assets.
Right.
The murder of Bruiser Brody.
Right.
Then you're out of money in the middle of Maine.
Yeah. In the winter.
And you thought about giving up.
Yep. I tried to commit suicide several times.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I got involved with drugs, because anybody that do harsh drugs, they want to die.
Right.
Life don't mean nothing to you anymore. You want to die, but you want to die happy, so you do the drugs. And that's why so many wrestlers die at such a young age, because they keep doing it because it ease the pain. It takes you out of reality. You don't feel it no more. And then it got to the place when you get involved, especially when you get involved with crack cocaine or heroin, something like that. What happens to you that nothing means nothing no more. Your mom don't mean nothing to you. Your boyfriend don't mean nothing to you. Your girlfriend don't mean nothing to you. You don't mean nothing to you. But the only thing that means anything to you is that drug. That is it.
And this really is a great story for the fans watching at home that may be in similar spots as Tony. That's why I really want to try and pinpoint
Once
some of
you
these.
get involved with heavy drugs like heroin, opium, cocaine, methamphetamine, you become a slave to the drug.
And that's what happened to you.
You would become a slave to. If I came up to you and you was a meth or heroin, any drug, and I said, look, I got $5 worth of cocaine here, $5 worth, street value. It's yours, but give me one of your eyeballs.
Really?
Without even thinking about it.
Really?
I'll tell you a scary story.
All right.
And I told this to the police department. There was this girl named Angie. She was 16 years old. I'm even doing in my bad days, I try to get her off the street. I took her to this guy that worked as a recruiting officer for the Coast Guard. But he could not take her because she didn't finish school. You have to finish high school before you join the military.
Right.
So he said, but maybe she could study for her GED. So we set her up. We even found her a woman to live with.
Really?
So she could study for her GED to get her off the street. She was selling her body at 14, 15 years for the drug. So one night, she couldn't take it no more. I guess the old lady that was watching her, that didn't watch her, she snuck out the house. She went down to what they call Knox Street up in Lewiston. And the police was watching the house because they were getting ready to bust the dealer. They saw her coming out of the place. So they followed her because they knew she got drugs. So when the police, what they used to do, so they could hide it from the police, they would swallow the bags. But when the police came in, they searched her, they searched the house, they couldn't find a drug. So the people that gave her the money, that put in the money to get the drugs with her, they asked her where were the drugs. She said, I swallowed them. It was in a plastic bag. So then they stuck their finger down her throat to try to get her to throw up, but she hadn't eaten nothing all day, so they wouldn't come up. They gave her X-Lax, and they tried to get her to pass it that way, wouldn't come up. This is a true story now. So she wanted to get a hit. She went in the kitchen herself, and she got a knife, and she let them open her stomach up to get the drugs out of her stomach. And they sat there and done the drugs that night. Later on that night, when she came down off of the drug, she died. They put her underneath the bed. She was only 16. Put her underneath the bed so that people don't know that she was under there. They left her there for about a day. She started smelling up the place. So they wrapped her in blankets and threw her into the canal.
Unbelievable. Dr. Reese, I've heard some wrestling stories, but you deal with people in your
Without
life every
the
day. Have you ever
worst-
heard of something like crazy like that?
I've heard everything.
Yeah?
It don't matter nothing. Hey, you would give me your eye. Trust me, brother. If I get you on methamphetamine, if I get you hooked on cocaine, and I ask you for your eye, you would cut it, you would pluck it right out your head and
Well,
give it
you
to
know
me.
what, WWF, if you're watching, thank God you created those Hulk Hogan Say No
got
to
no
Drugs
idea.
promos.
People
Because
that
I've never done one.
That's
I was a
right.
little Hulkamaniac.
Young kids got no idea what drugs would do to them. I have seen girls that was in their 20s look like they was in their 60s. I've seen people lose their teeth for using methamphetamine. They would lay out and they would do, I believe when I say anything, brother, anything. I don't care what it is. If you tell a guy that want meth, if he want it bad enough, say, well, let me run you over with the car. Okay, can I get my hit first? They don't care.
When you were under the bench, were you still using?
No.
Okay, so you were
I was
clean at
surviving.
that point.
I used to, I hate to say it, I probably go to jail. I used to roll them,
Roll them? What do you mean?
take their money.
People?
Yeah.
Pickpocket?
No, I take it.
Well, give me an example. I'm
I
walking
grab-
through
I
the
grab
park.
I grab you by the neck. I throw you up against the wall. While I'm holding you by your throat, I put my hand in your pocket. I take your money, and I leave you enough for your dope. And I would take $20 or $30 and go buy me some food.
Really?
I did strong arm.
Tony, never knew that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I want to set the record straight, because in wrestling lore,
But they can't tell on me because
what are they going to do? Right, yeah,
because
they can't
they got
report
the
you.
money. They got the money dishonestly. But they should be proud that I did that, because a lot of times, if I took your money, I see you in the street. Hey, come and get some of these beans. I got a pot of beans on the stove. Hey, come and get some of this ham. I used to feed them, but they wouldn't give me the money to cook for them, so I took the money. So in other words, I took the money and invested it on food for them. That's how I made it through, because they didn't think about food. They would get the welfare moms. It's the worst. A drug addict welfare mom is the worst. It's a shame that the government don't have people to go and check on them. This is what they would do. They would get food stamps. They would sell the food stamps. Like if I had $100 worth of food stamp, I sell them for you for $20. Because that's what I need to get my dope, to get my fix.
So they didn't even want the
One
food.
hit.
Yeah.
Now the kids got no food. I've been in the houses where little kids is laying in their own feces with sores all over their body. There was one guy that was on drugs one time, and the kid kept crying, and he was trying to take his hit. So the kid kept crying so much that when he go to take his hit, Instead of sucking in, he blew out and blew the cocaine everywhere. Wow. Now he can't get his hit. What do you think he did with that kid? He took that baby, put him in a microwave, turned the microwave on.
This is someone you knew?
No, I didn't know him, but we all know what he did.
Was this up in Maine? My God.
Put the baby in a microwave because the baby made him lose his hit.
Tony, we're getting ready to hit the
Actually,
break.
there's a book about that case.
People
Really?
got
You're familiar
no
with it?
idea how
Yeah,
strong
really?
these drugs
Yeah.
are when the kids get involved in them.
Yeah,
No idea.
A couple of years ago, I did a conference with a lawyer who was involved in that case.
Yeah.
And it was,
Wow. All right, Tony, before we hit the break, one question. Can you go back in your mind to that first night you sunk so low that you had to live under that bench? Do you remember what was going through your head? A man that was on top of the world, 20,000 people cheering your name at Madison Square Garden, and now you're living under a bench in a park in the winter in Maine, of all places.
You don't think.
Just went to sleep.
You just go numb. And you wait for the end. You just go numb and you wait for the end. You figure this is it.
You were ready to die.
Yeah.
Really?
Life don't mean nothing to you anymore.
it's an altered
You don't
state.
have a life. You don't have a life.
All right, let's take the break. We'll come back. We're going to find out how Tony came back to the world of professional wrestling and how he came to us. It's a wonderful story as we approach Thanksgiving in just a couple days. Stand by. Wrestling fans, welcome back to Memories and Legends, one of two big Survivor Series weekend episodes. I'm Dan Marati, joined by our special guest, El Presidente himself, Dr. David Reese, and the man of the hour, Tony Atlas, a very hopeful...
Tony, Mr. USA, WWE 2006 Hall of Famer, one half of the first World Heavyweight Championship with the Rock father, Rocky Johnson, Tony Atlas.
Pat yourself
Get
on the
it
back
straight,
a little
young
out of
man.
Barry
Get
Horowitz.
it straight, bar no hootin' toot, there won't be no shooting.
Hopefully, this is going to leave you with a message where you're going to feel a little thankful when you have your turkey this Thursday, Dr. Reese. Tony was living under a bench, homeless, no money. Your belongings, I imagine, were gone.
Most of them.
What did you have with you at that point?
I
Did you have a bag? Or?
I had the ICW World Heavyweight Championship belt.
When you were sleeping in the park, that tells you all
I
you
used
need
to
to
wear
know.
the belt around my waist. I was Mario champion during that time.
That's all you need to
Ain't
know
that,
about
did
that
you
title.
do that? I had Mario belt. I used to wear it in the park. I sat there. I'm world wrestling champion. And I slept in the park, yeah.
Tell us how you came to find this wonderful human being that came all the way from Germany to Maine. We'll call her Monica.
Monica.
Tell us,
Monica.
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 I met her once in 1994, about 2 blocks away at Memorial Hall for a Tony Rumble event. I think
Well,
that
she was carrying her groceries.
okay, through the park.
Through the park.
Your home.
And what I used to do, I would go down to the appliance stores. And when they sell refrigerator, got these big boxes. So I get me one of them boxes. And what I did, you put clothes up around it, and then you put snow on top of it, all the way around it. Yeah, you make it like a little house. So it'd be about this big, the whole thing about this big.
So you made yourself like a little igloo?
Yeah, and you curl up in it.
Really?
And then like if you find clothes, when you saw me, when I became homeless, I was 286 pounds when I became homeless. I had dropped down all the way to 218 pounds.
Wow.
But when you saw me, I looked like I weighed 300 pounds. Because the way homeless people do, you wear what you find. Like if I got a pair of pants and I found another pair of pants, I put them on over top of that pair.
Really?
And that's what, because if I take it off, somebody take them. So everything we found, we kept with us. You see, sometimes they would push a cot. All their belongings in that cot because you got no place to put nothing. So everywhere you go, your stuff goes with you. So I fell asleep with all them clothes on. I started sweating.
Wow.
Well, it got warm during the day. One of them nice, what they call days during the winter. And the snow started to melt a little bit, and little sprinkles here, little sprinkle there. And I thought it was nice, so I took a nap. Well, then when the evening came, around 3 or 4 o'clock, the temperature dropped. It could go from being 36 down in Maine to below zero. So this lady came through, she was carrying these 2 bags, and she saw this pile of snow. So she started knocking the snow off because she wanted to sit down. I go, what the hell are you doing? Get away from that. Scared the hell out of her. She jumped, she looked down there, what are you doing on there? I said, this is my house. I said, what business of yours? She said, you can't stay here. I said, why? I said, I've been staying here. She said, yeah, but it's going to be cold tonight. I said, it's cold every night. She said, it's going to be 22 below zero tonight. I said, so it was cold the other night too. Man, your own business, get away. So she left. She came back with her daughter with butcher knives.
Butcher knives?
Butcher knives.
Why?
I was frozen in the ice. I didn't know it.
You was in the little igloo that you made?
I was frozen to the ground. I was stuck to the ground. I tried to get up. I couldn't get up.
So how did they get you up?
She chipped the ice away, and then her and her daughter carried me to her house. She put me in a bathtub.
They didn't bring you to a hospital?
Wait, she took me to her house first.
Okay.
She's not a nurse. She took all my clothes off. She took my clothes, put them in the garbage bags, and threw them out the window.
Really?
It took her a month to get the stench out of her house. Remember, when you're homeless, what people don't realize about homeless people, they don't take no bath.
Right.
Where you gonna shower at?
Right, yeah. The rain.
But you can't take your clothes off. So if your clothes get wet, they're gonna dry on your body. Then you know, it's like, that happened to me, it rained on me, it sticks to your body. You get real sticky. You're like glue, like Elmer glue. Your body feel like it because all the dirt in with the wetness. So your body feel like Elmer glue. When a homeless person, if he walked through that door right now, if he could stay in that front room, you would smell him.
Really?
Humans are we are the stinkest thing God ever created. Human beings can stink. So anyway, she threw all my clothes away, and she put me in that tub of hot water. Well, I went into like a slight seizure.
Really?
You know, the shock to my body, and I fell out. And I was in a coma for probably about 2 or 3 days.
Really?
And then when I came to, she came to the hospital every day to check on me. When I came through, I listened to her talk, and they kept asking her, trying to get information about me for the payment.
Right, right.
Somebody got to pay for me being there, you know. And she kept saying, I don't know him. And they said, well, you brought him here. So they wanted to bill her, give her my bill. Yeah, because she brought me in, you know. She brought me in. They wanted to bill her. So you kept saying that I don't know him. And then I hear this doctor say this. He said, well, there are not many people like you. And they say, if he had stayed out there for another day, he'd have been dead.
Wow.
They say he got a slight pneumonia, and they say he was only maybe 30, maybe 15 or 20 minutes for being what's called frostbitten. They say if he had got frostbitten, we would have to amputate his legs.
Wow.
So I almost came that close to having this whole side, this leg, and this arm amputated.
Amazing story.
So right now, all of this Tony Atkins has been gone, having this woman, and this side of my face has been gone, if it wasn't for that woman. So then, I was coming down, what I used to do to eat, I used to, McDonald's, at the end of the day, all the burgers they don't keep, they throw them in the dumpster. So I knew what time they closed, so I go climb into the dumpster and pull boxes on top of me so they can't see me. And when they throw them hamburgers in, I grab them hamburgers out of the dumpster. One day a guy saw me coming out the dumpster, they put a lock on it. So then, after she took me in, I was with Monica for probably about 6 months. And every time this policeman would see me, try to talk to me. Well, I knew all the crooks and crannies, you know, I dodged him and got away from him. So one day, I'm in this convenience store with Monica. She said, "Oh, I finally caught you." I said, "For what?" I said, "I ain't did nothing." He said, No, you're not in no trouble, you're not in trouble. I said, "What do you want me for?" Because, you know, cop coming to me, I got to be in some trouble. He said, "Did you ever hear of Vince McMahon?" I go, "Yeah, I used to work for him." They said, "Yeah, we know who you are." And they said, "Well, he been trying to get a hold of you." So he called the police station. And they asked, they said, I said, "Well, I don't have a phone." So he said, "You could use my phone." So I used his phone to call Vince.
Wow.
And that's how I became Saba Simba.
Well, that's a whole episode we're going to dive into. But Tony, how did the romance blossom between you and Monica?
We got married. Been
How
married
long
for
did it
30
take?
years.
How long did it take you to get married?
6 months.
Really? Was there romance right away? Did it
Nope.
take a little while to blossom?
I have been to every state in the United States. I've been to every country in the world with the exception of China, Russia, and Korea are the only places on this planet. I've been to the Philippines, I've been to Japan, I've been to Australia, I've been all over Europe, all over Asia, I've been to Iraq, I've been to Kuwait, I've been to Egypt, I've been to Morocco, I've been to just about every place in Africa. And I met 3 women in my life, 3, that really cared about me. My grandmother, my mom, and Monica.
A guardian angel.
She's the 3rd woman that I have met since I've been on this planet that cared about nothing but me. Not what I represent, not the way I look, just me.
And
Nothing else.
almost 30 years now you've been married?
Been over almost 30 years.
Wow.
And September the 16th is going to be her birthday. She's going to be 77 years old.
Tony.
And if Beyonce come in here right now and say, Tony, if you leave your wife, I'll marry you and give you all my fortune, I tell her, get lost.
You love that woman.
I love that woman.
She took you in when no one else wanted you.
The first and only Caucasian woman I've ever been with in my life. Her mother is Jewish. Her father is German. And my wife got a story, too. I tried to get her to come down here sometime.
We'd love to have her
My
on.
wife was so afraid to talk about her Jewish part of her family. Here in America now, not in Germany, here. She was so afraid that I never knew that until probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I thought she was just pure German, but she's part Jewish.
Wow.
But she would not speak of it,
Even to you.
even to me.
Wow. All right, Tony. Well,
And I tell you something, she said that every American should listen to. What my wife said. I said, what is different between German people and American people? She said, German people complain when something is wrong. American people just complain.
well,
Nothing got to be wrong.
and that was before the days of Twitter, right?
Yeah, there's nothing. In other words, we don't need nothing to complain about. We just want to complain just because we could do it. But she said in Germany, something has to be wrong before they complain about it. In America, we don't need for anything to be wrong. We just wake up in a bad mood.
Dr. Reese, I have to ask you,
Yeah.
what a story. What a life this man
A
has
life,
had.
yeah.
I mean, how can you,
Yeah.
maybe in a few sentences, sum up what we heard here? The bottom that he hit and the reclamation, thanks to this
Oh.
wonderful woman named Monica that led to an eventual WWE return.
Obviously, Tony was on the edge a couple of times, but we're talking about his resilience and the ability to pull yourself back up, and no matter how low you go and recognizing how low you go, to know that there's something more and that something more still can connect with you.
Well, I got an opinion, Doc. I'm going to mess up the whole program. The worst thing, parents, the worst thing you could do for a child, the worst thing is to give them choices. Here's the reason why. When things come easy, my mom, I won a bike one time. She said, boy, if you come up with half the money, I'll give you the other half. I have to pay for half of everything I got. Now kids don't have what they call appreciation. When you ask your mom for $10, you just hold out your hand, you get the $10. What that child don't know, their mother have to work for 2 hours
To get it.
to get that $10. Child don't know that. When you get things easy, everything come to you easy, then all of a sudden a thing happens to you that happens to every human. You grow up. You get out in the real world for the first time in your life. The kids they raising now is like training a fighter to fight Mike Tyson in the ring But before you put them in the ring, you don't teach them how to box. You want them to swim the Atlantic Ocean, but you don't teach them how to swim. They grow up believing that everything comes easy.
Right.
And they don't give the kids the tools. You see, the reason I was able to make it through the homelessness, I went without before, so I knew what hard times
You'd been
was.
there.
I was there as a child.
You'd been there.
I was there as a child, so going back there was no big deal. Right now, the number one killer of our military, the number one thing that killed more military soldiers than ISIS anything else, is suicide. Yeah. We have a suicide rate among young people, because once they so used to get, now you see all these young kids with cell phones, right? Who's paying the bill? Now what that child gonna do when mom can't pay that bill no more?
They're not
The
gonna
kid,
have a
he
phone.
got no work ethic.
Right.
Kid don't know what work is. He never got his hands dirty. All of a sudden, he gonna get a $200 bill. He ain't gonna know how to pay for that cell phone that his parents gave him. He ain't gonna know how to pay for the child that he's impregnated that woman with. He's not gonna know how to hold down a job and put in the hours and save money. He don't have them skills.
Well,
now, in the olden days, parents would give the child all the. My mother would not buy me nothing because she wanted me to learn that money didn't come easy.
Right.
And from that day on, one day, you see how parents would take a kid and they would ask a child now that's been on the earth for 4 years. This woman been on the earth for 30 freaking years. She would turn to a kid and say, "Oh, this makes me sick." Every time I see it, I want to vomit. Every time I see it.
Vomit.
What do you want to eat?
Just like that.
I want to go over there and choke her. Do your freaking job. Teach that kid what he should and what they shouldn't eat. You don't let a kid make a decision. He's not paying for it.
All right, well,
When a mother allows a child to make a decision with her money, she's not a mom. She's a caretaker. A mom teach a child right from wrong, so that child had good skills when they grow up. That's why these kids get pissed off and grab a gun and shoot the other kid, because somebody say no to that little brat for the first time in their life.
well,
Like as far as
Tony,
dating-
we're really drifting away from the
Well, no,
topic
it's
at
all
hand.
the same. This how come I made
All right,
it through.
all right. Let's
This is
get
the
it through,
stuff
brother.
that I learned that helped me to make it through. Like, for example, my first date,
Yeah.
chaperone. Yeah, chaperone. My mother would put green beans on the table, fried chicken on a platter in the center. The pie is in the kitchen. You want a piece of chicken? You eat them green beans. I said, "Mom, I don't like green beans." "Then you ain't hungry then." She take them green beans and wrap them green beans up, put them in the refrigerator. You're gonna have them tomorrow.
You had the beans before the good
She's
stuff.
not gonna.
Yeah?
She's not gonna be your servant.
Well, there's a lot of fact in that. But Dr. Reese, there's a lot of folks that are watching.
Old school.
That have hit hard times in their life.
Kids supposed to respect their parents. Kids supposed to do what their parents
In
say.
your-
Parents is not supposed to do what a child say. Your mom ain't supposed to ask you what you want to eat. You supposed to eat what she worked the game for you. She worked hard for that food. You eat that food.
What good kind of wisdom
If
could
you don't like what your mom fixes, go to work and buy
All
your
right,
own
Tony,
food.
we get it. We get it, Tony. We get it. What kind of words of
You're a
wisdom could
brat.
you
Yeah,
share with
you.
someone that have hit hard times like Tony? Has someone that are going through it right now and that we want to see turn out like Tony, a success story in the end?
Well, just to make it real quick and without getting very technical, and just to really play off of what Tony's saying, you know the biggest lie that kids are ever told? And so they lived happily ever after.
A lot of truth to that.
You know, in the old days when we'd read a story like that, that was a fantasy that you lived up to. Now too many people expect that they'll live happily ever after.
Yeah.
And it's something you got to work for and earn. And no matter how low you get, to realize there's a way back up.
That's right.
And that it's not that it's just going to be there for you. That it's not just that if you do the right things, you'll live happily ever after.
That's right.
It's that it's a constant struggle.
That's right.
And what I tell people is, yeah, maybe you'll live happily ever after, but first you got to put on your boots and wade through the
That's
crap,
right.
and
You
there's
got
a
it.
long
That's
way
right.
to go.
That's right.
And Tony, as well, you hear the music, we're running out of time now. In a few sentences, could you tell someone from firsthand experience, which is different than Dr. Reese's, what words of wisdom would you give to someone that's in your plight right now?
Why gain the world and lose your soul? The law helped those who help themselves. God said, you make one step, I make two. When we was kids, there was two things that got put into us. Number one was the law of prayer. Number two was the pledge to the flag, to the country. These things are not being put into the kid. So if you could get your child to know God, he will never forsake you. I don't care how low down you get. He will find a way. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and the door shall open. Like the doc said, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's two sides to every coin. Life is negative and positive. We come to the crossroads of life every day. If I go down this road of righteousness, then you reap what you sow. You're never going to plant oranges and get apples. Whatever you put into the seed is what the seed gonna grow. For parents, your kids act up at 2, that might be cute at 2, as my mom said, but not at 20.
Right.
So if you plant a seed at 2 years of age in a child, that seed gonna grow when they get 20.
All right, we got about
But
30 seconds.
It just ain't
running
gonna
out
be
of
cute.
time.
It won't be cute no more.
Dr. Reese, what would be a great resource for someone in a plight like Tony's? Where would you direct them to?
Well, there aren't a lot of social resources now. There aren't as many as there should be. But
I don't think there's
basically,
something wrong with me.
what Tony's saying is you need to find your spiritual heart.
Right.
And no matter what religion
That's
and no
right.
matter what your faith is, whether it's organized or not, it's finding your meaning and finding your purpose.
That's right.
And not letting go of that.
All right, fans, happy Thanksgiving. Tony Atlas is with us. We're happy about that. And he's going to continue to be with us, hopefully, for many, many decades, not even years. How about that? All right. Don't forget Thursday night, after you have the turkey, after you have the pie, we kick off our Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive, the 7th annual. That's going to be a lot of fun. You'll be with us for special Memories and Legends.
You want to have some chitlins?
I don't know about that. I've never had the chitlins.
You got to bring some chitlins down.
Well, you and Quincy can have those. For the Hall of Famer,
You don't
Tony,
eat pig guts?
I've never had the pig guts.
You don't know what you missed.
All right, well, hopefully I won't.
What about Mondongo?
No, none of that either. For the Hall of Famer, Tony Atlas, Dr. David Reese, I'm Dan Marty.
Menudo? Yeah, menudo?
No. Happy holidays to you and yours from everyone here in the Millennium Wrestling Federation. We'll see you next time on Memories and Legends.
Thank you for joining us. Please give the video a big thumbs up, leave us a comment, and subscribe to the channel to enjoy more great content. Don't forget, you can help keep Wrestling Legends working. Check out our eBay store and join the Boston Wrestling family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling so we can produce more in-depth shoot interviews.